It's 1977, I'm 22 years old, and I'm living in an old Victorian row house. My apartment is on the first floor, and my bedroom's on the back of this apartment. Right beside my bedroom is an alley, and then a cement patio. Right next door to me, beside me on the alley, is the party house. You know the house. Parties all the time. It's about dawn. I'm in bed, and I'm half awake and half asleep. And I hear this plaintive, mournful cry. Johnny doesn't love me anymore. I strain to hear where this is coming from. I wake up a bit. My eyes are half open and half closed. And as I turn my head towards the window by my bed, I hear more crying. And as I awaken more, I look out that window and I see, standing on the second-story window ledge, a nude woman. She's swaying, actually. And I hear the cry again. Johnny doesn't love me anymore. I bolt out of bed. I run down the hall to my roommate, and I say, come quickly. There's a woman standing on the second-story window ledge. She says, oh my God. And as we make our way, we suddenly hear a loud thud. The woman had jumped. We run out back, and she's on the cement patio. Miraculously, she's alive and moaning. My roommate runs back in the house to get a sheet, and I stayed with this woman, talking with her while 911 was called, and we waited for the rescue squad. I was left feeling stunned and frightened. How could someone do this? What could be so awful that you would jump out of a window? And how could I have helped? How can I help someone like this? P.S. She lived. Oh yeah. And the next day, she was home from the hospital, and the partying began all over again in that house. At that time in my life, I was in college full-time, and I was training to be an addictions therapist. And in between my college classes, I waitressed at 2 different restaurants. So my day was like this. Wake up in the morning, go to a class on overview of addictions. And then by lunchtime, run downtown and cocktail waitress at a very nice, expensive restaurant. And then I would run back uptown and go to another class in the afternoon on Counseling 101. And then about 8 o'clock at night, I would put on my Kit Kat Club outfit, my tight little danskin leotard, my little skirt, my heels, and I cocktail waitressed at a Holiday Inn lounge club. Really classy. And so I sold even more alcohol. And this was a conflict, right? I'm learning about addictions by day, and I'm selling alcohol. I'm really pushing it to make a living. And I thought, how can I hear all these stories, these clients' stories, one story more awful than the next? How can I hear these stories and still make a difference? Well, my college program required an internship, and so I was assigned to a substance abuse clinic. And I was so excited to try this counseling thing on. I was going to get some real experience. And I was asked to lead a group for family members who have an alcoholic or an addict in their life. And I quickly learned this was not going to be so easy. And in particular, one group member challenged me the most. We'll call her Kim. So group would go like this. Welcome, group members. Today we're here to talk about our emotions and how they affect our communications with our family. Who would like to start? And so Kim said, feelings? I'll give you feelings. My roommate drinks whenever she feels like it. She passes out, she makes a huge mess, and I'm left to clean it all up. And I said, well, how does that make you feel, Kim? And Kim said, you know, everything you say comes straight out of books. You don't even know what you're talking about. what do you even know about alcoholism? And when are they going to send in a professional counselor, one that knows what she's talking about? Maybe someone that even knows about alcoholism. So I said, well, Kim, it sounds like you're very angry, and it also sounds like you're disappointed. You were expecting a different counselor. And Kim said, no shit, Sherlock. Ouch. As I said, not easy. And I felt a little bit like a phony. I'm not an alcoholic, but how is this a requirement? So this contentiousness continued for several more weeks, and finally I asked Kim to stay after group one day so we could talk a little bit more individually. And I learned that she had been dealing with this problem roommate for quite some time, and that the roommate's drinking was taking a terrible toll on her, so much so that she was now drinking alcoholically. And so I challenged Kim to quit drinking for just 6 weeks, just to try not drinking, come to group and go to AA meetings. She was skeptical about this, but she decided she would give it a try. And our relationship changed after that. She began to let her walls down, she began to let me in, and she began to let the magic of the group kind of take over. And those 6 weeks turned into 6 more weeks. And then those 6 more weeks at last track were over 20 years. Kim's life was transformed by her sobriety, and she blossomed. She went on to become a counselor. That is the power of change. The program asked me to attend AA meetings as well, and I had some trepidation about going to AA meetings. What was this going to be like? What were alcoholics like? So an AA meeting begins with a speaker being introduced. They tell their story, what their life was like when they were drinking, what their life was like at the bottom, and then what their life is like as they make a recovery. I heard so many stories. I heard crazy stories, I heard hilarious stories, I heard tragic stories. I heard about the wreckage of your life and what it's like at the bottom, and I heard about what it's like when you begin to make a turn and you take a new path. And I heard about how the kindness of strangers can literally save your life when everyone's given up on you and there's no hope. And that is the fellowship of the 12 steps. And those 12 steps changed me. They made me more authentic. They made me more real as a counselor. And over that process, I learned that I loved helping people. Nothing else has filled my sails the same way. And I have had the privilege of helping many people who face this difficult path. I don't have alcoholism, but I just get it. And my role is to be able to provide a safe environment so people feel vulnerable enough to tell me their story. And I learned in that process that these stories, these healing stories, really all our stories, make our hearts bigger. And in that bigger space is love, the most healing force on the planet.